Hi, everybody, and welcome to Heel Heat. My name is George Coles, and on this episode, we're going to do Who Was Better. The topic for this Who Was Better? Two mainstays of world-class championship wrestling, the modern-day warrior, the Texas Tornado, Kerry Von Erich, and Gino Hernandez. These are two wrestlers that I think helped define the company in the 80s. One of their best baby faces, one of their best heels. Two guys I really think have a lot of parallels that I think would do well versus each other. And if you haven't seen any of these videos before, I have 8 separate categories that I rate them in. In each category, I rate them on a 1 to 5 scale, 1 being the worst, 5 being the best. At the end, we total up the points from those categories. Then there is a chance to get bonus points, which we'll talk about at the end. With that being said, let's jump right into it. Our first category, technical wrestling. Now, for Kerry Von Erich, I'm giving Kerry a 3. I know we have to kind of adjust this for time, and we're talking about the 80s, where a style like Zack Sabre Jr. implies wouldn't work back then as much as it does now. However, I wouldn't say Kerry was bad. He was serviceable when needed to be, but I wouldn't put him up there with the stalwarts of the era like a Savage or Flair. He's right about average in my... Now for Gino Hernandez, I'm going to give Gino a 4. I do think Gino is a little bit better in the ring than Kerry is, and he could carry a match better in my opinion. I've seen more what I would call great matches of Gino than I've seen of Kerry Von Erich. And that's not a knock on Kerry, it's just looking at matches in a bubble. Kerry's been involved in some very great stories. That's why there's more than just his category. I love Gino as a wrestler. That's why I think he gets... Now for striking, Kerry Von Erich is getting a 5. I do think this is where he excelled. He is of the generation of the fiery babyface that hits a comeback and hits clotheslines and forearm smashes and a discus clothesline and then gets the win. I think he's the perfect example of what I would call a striking wrestler from the 80s. Someone that uses that as their main form of offense. For Gino, I'm giving a 4. While he's not as good as Kerry, I think he is more rounded, as you can see between the technical wrestling and the striking, in my opinion. I think he was very good at a lot of things and great at some, and that's why I give him a 4. Now coming up next, how they perform as a heel. For Kerry, I don't think I've ever really seen him be a heel. So for that, I'm going to give him a pass. I'm giving him a 3 because I can't remember a time where he was actually... Now he may have been, and you might be furiously typing down here in the comments, in 1986 he was a heel when he went to USWA or something of that. But I haven't seen it, or if I did, I don't remember it. That's why I'm giving him a pass, giving him a 3. For Gino gets a 5. For you younger fans that may have not seen Gino Hernandez, he was everything that MJF is now. On the positive side, Gino Hernandez wasn't. Gino Hernandez could have been the biggest heel in wrestling. He could have been where Ric Flair was. He could have been on that ultra elite level that only certain heels get to. Now, personal demons and stuff of that nature derailed him, but I do think he was a top-notch heel, even without getting as many opportunities to beat. Now, on the flip side, how they perform as a babyface. For Kerry, I'm giving him a 5. If you look at both his runs in World Class and his run in WWE, the fans really gravitate. They love this, whether it be because they love his family or they just love him himself. Kerry Von Erich was a star. He looked like a star. He acted like a star. And the fans respond as such. He is very beloved. That's why he gets a 5. Now for Gino, I have seen a very little bit of Gino as a babyface. I'm going to give him a pass here as well and give him a 3. He would have been the kind of character that needed several years as a top heel to really transition into being a beloved babyface that the fans love because he's their scumbag, as like MJF would say. So yeah, I can't give him much more than that, but he does get it. Now for promos, for Kerry Von Erich, not his strong suit. He is lower than average, I would say, and probably the one thing that really held him back from being a multi-time NWA champion or a long-running NWA champion or WWF champion was his promos. I'm giving him a 2. I don't think he was totally unwatchable, but I can't really think of one that sticks out to me, or one signature style he had. He was very monotone and kind of ho-hum in my opinion. When you're in a company like when he went to WWE, and he's there with guys like Hulk Hogan and Bobby Heenan and Rick Rude and Jake the Snake Roberts and all these other wrestlers that are cutting great promos, and he's just less than average. It's kind of why he never made it to the tippy top. That, and of course, demons were involved. For Gino Hernandez, Gino is getting... If you've never seen a Gino Hernandez promo and you're a fan of professional wrestling, I say write it down, pause this video, whatever you have to do, go and watch some Gino Hernandez promos. They are such great works of what a quintessential heel should. He plays his character so well, and his promos fit him so perfect. Like I said, the closest equivalent I could think of is MJF, and I think he's even better than MJF. I don't think MJF lives up to him, because I do think MJF does kind of lean too much on some insider type stuff, and, stuff that plays with the tropes of wrestling, whereas Gino was just your class. Going from that, our next category, presentation. This is their robes, this is their gear, their music. For this, Kerry Von Erich's getting a 5. The modern day warrior coming out to Rush, or even the Texas Tornado, with the tassels on his boots, with the sequence jacket. He was presented as a star, he looked like a star, that's why he became. For Gino, Gino's getting a 4. So the difference between Gino getting a 4 and a 5 for me is I look at Gino and I look at Tully. And I look at the presentation of Tully Blanchard and I look at the presentation of Hernandez. And where I think they're very comparable, if you notice, there's a certain look of Tully Blanchard that Gino Hernandez doesn't quite get. And what I mean by that is, let's say you go into a board and you have your lower level manager. You know what they look like, you've worked for these managers. And then you get the president of the company coming in. You notice he has a better looking suit. It's fitted better. It doesn't look like he's worn it 20 times. It looks like the first time it came off the rack. That's the little subtle differences, I think, between their presentation. I did think he was presented really well. I just think there was an extra notch that could have happened. And maybe it's just because he was a world class and didn't quite have the budget, or he was using his budget for other means. Again, I digress. But yeah, that's the little bit that would have put him over the top. Now for charisma, both men are getting a 5. There's the heel charisma of Gino Hernandez, one of the best heels of the decade. And there's the face charisma of Kerry Von Erich, one of the beloved baby faces of the day. I mean, I think this is where these two guys shine. This is what made them special. You wanted to hate Gino, you wanted to love Kerry. They played their parts perfect. Now last but not least, big game performance. This is your main event, your pay-per-view main event, your big Texas Stadium event. For Kerry, I'm giving a 4. Now, the reason why he gets a 4 and not a 5, because there are some great events that Kerry Von Erich's been involved in. There are a few times where on the biggest stage, I don't think he gave his best performance. Case in point, Kerry Von Erich versus Jerry Lawler, when they combined the AWA and World Class, and they were trying to do a whole merger thing. I think it's Super Clash 3, I believe, is the card it's on, but you know the match. I don't think Kerry quite gave his best, and it fell a little. Now, there are matches with him and Mr. Perfect that I think are fantastic. His match with Flair in the cage was magnificent, but there's other matches, like I said, with Lawler, just don't really live up to him being a main event guy. Very good, not top. Now for Gino gets a 5. Anytime that Gino was in the main event, he showed out, and he made a point to make himself one of the focal points of that event, whether it be by himself, whether it be his tag team with Gentleman Chris Adams. I think he really set the bar with his matches and the way he performed. I thought he did fantastic. That's why Gino gets a 5. Now going to our totals, for Kerry Von Erich, Kerry gets 32. For Gino Hernandez, 35. But wait, there's that bonus I talked about earlier. Every Wednesday, and I know it's been a couple weeks, for those of you that watch my channel for a long time, there was a family issue that I don't want to go too much further into here, but I had to take a couple weeks off of shooting because of that. Everything's fine. Nothing to worry about. Just personal family issues that took me away from making videos. I digress. Normally, every Wednesday, and this is 2 Wednesdays ago, I put a poll out on my used to be community page on YouTube, but now I think it's just called Posts. And basically it gives you the 2 people that are going to be in my next Who Was Better video, and you vote who you think is better. The winner of the vote gets 5 bonus. I came up with this when early on in making these I had a tie, and I had to think of a tiebreaker. This is basically my tiebreaker. Also, it gives other people's opinion that may be different. Maybe I'm looking at somebody more favorably than I should. With that being said, the 5 bonus points for this Who Was Better are going to the modern day warrior, Kerry Von Erich, giving him a total of 37, just barely beating Gino Hernandez and making him the winner. He's the one for this week who's determined to be better. I can't really argue that fact. These two are very closely matched, and that's what I like to do. I don't want to necessarily do something like, let's say, Bret Hart versus Brooklyn Brawl. Of course, Bret Hart. I don't want to do Shawn Michaels versus Battle Cat. While Battle Cat Brady Brune was awesome, I don't think he's on the level of Shawn Michaels. I like to get people that are kind of, A, have some historical significance in each other's career, or have been compared to each other, and then B, I think would be a good matchup. And for me, that's what I think here. With all that being said, your winner, Kerry Von Erich. I want to thank everybody that voted. I want to thank everybody for your patience with me putting out videos. I will be back to posting at least once a week here, so pay attention here. I really appreciate all your support. With all that being said, my name is George Coles. You've been watching Who Was Better?